Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Nick Gray, and today I've got something special for you, an unboxing of the all-new ZTE Axon 30 Ultra. Now, a couple years back, I got the chance to use the Axon 10 Pro, which I really loved and gave it an Editor's Choice Award for Phandroid. And I'm really excited to see how this device stacks up when compared to that phone and also some other devices that are currently on the market. Now, there is a big difference between this device and the Axon 10 Pro that I really loved. And that is mainly going to come down to the price and the demographic that this device is going to be pitched towards. This phone here, we don't have US pricing quite yet. It is coming to the US market, but from what we've seen so far with pricing for the Chinese market, it should roughly translate to about $1,000, give or take 10 to 15 bucks. But compared to the 10 Pro, that one was about $500 to $600 here in the US. So this is significantly more expensive and in line with what we've seen from a lot of manufacturers the last couple years, really increasing the price points of their smartphones. But we're gonna jump into the box here. I've already taken off the lid to see the phone inside. And right there on top, we have the phone. And the camera module on this device really reminds me, well, I'm sure you want to hear the sound of this opening up. Always pretty satisfying. But the camera module here that you can see on the back of the phone is really reminiscent of what we're getting on some of the flagship devices these years, specifically other devices with the name Ultra. Samsung's Galaxy S21 Ultra has a very similar camera module on the back of the phone. We're going to get into the specs of that really quick, but the main camera is a 64 megapixel sensor back there, and it actually has three 64 megapixel sensors on the back of this phone. But we're going to set the phone to the side quick to see what else is inside the box. It looks here, we have the usual warranty card, and then it does come with a clear case that has a plastic adhesive on it. We'll tear that off. It's a nice touch, which a lot of Chinese manufacturers do with their flagship devices, throw in a case just to keep it protected right out of the box. And then in here we also have the SIM ejection tool. And then further into the box, this is a thicker box, unlike what we're getting from Samsung and Apple's devices, which means we have a USB-C charging cable, a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack dongle if you want to listen to music. Apparently this does not, no, it does not have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on the back, but you do get the dongle if you want to use that. And then inside of here should be the charger. Now, based off of the specs of this phone, this is actually pretty small, but pretty heavy. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see that there, but this does offer 65 watt fast charging, which isn't the fastest on the market that we've seen. That goes to the Black Shark that can charge at 120 watts, which is absolutely insane. Being able to top off the phone from 0 to 100% in less than 20 minutes. But with the 4,600 milliamp hour battery on the inside here, you should be able to give this phone a full charge in less than 45 minutes. But we're gonna have to put that to the test to see how that holds up. But to give you guys a closer look at the phone itself, again, that camera module on the back of the phone is pretty impressive with three 64 megapixel sensors on the back. And then it also, so the 64 megapixel sensors are for the main camera, the ultra wide camera, and then a 35 millimeter camera, which they're calling a portrait camera. And then finally, there's an 8 megapixel telephoto camera with a 5x optical zoom, which is a periscope zoom module on the back. And then for the front facing camera, that's right in the middle on the front, right built into the display, is a 16 megapixel sensor there. As far as the other specifications of this device, it's running a Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 chipset with either 8 or 12 gigabytes of RAM, depending on the configuration and what's available specifically within your market, with a 128 or 256 gigabytes of internal storage. There is also some talks about going all the way up to 512 or even 1 terabyte, depending on some specific models of this device, but those are definitely not going to be available in every single market. And then as far as the display goes, this one here is going to be pretty interesting. It is only a full HD plus display, but it offers a 144 hertz refresh rate with a 300 hertz touch sampling rate, which is going to be extremely popular for anyone who's interested in gaming on their smartphones. That high touch sampling rate makes sure that if you're playing Call of Duty Mobile, PUBG, or even Fortnite, you're having the best refresh rates and also the best touch sampling as possible, just to make sure that you're not getting caught in any situations where your phone is going to slow you down. Just turned on the display here so that you can see the display, and again, that camera right up top. As far as speakers go, you get stereo speakers with one at the bottom right next to the USB-C port right there, and also one at the top that I'm not sure you'll be able to see right there, right above the display. And it should have what they're saying or calling 3D audio as well. But for me, one of the most interesting aspects of this phone is going to be the cooling mechanism on the inside, or the different graphene cooling. They have a graphene cooling and copper grid on the inside, as well as a vapor chamber. And they're saying it allows for 140% better cooling than what they've experienced on previous devices. So we've seen a lot of thermal throttling with phones running the Snapdragon 888 chipset this year. We can get incredible performance out of these devices for a shorter period of time, but if the cooling system on this phone really works as good as they say it does, this should be very competitive with the larger phones that might be thicker. This one here is only, I believe, 8.9 millimeters thick, making it a lot smaller. I don't have it on hand here, but a lot smaller than the Galaxy S21 Ultra. If anyone's used that phone, you'll know how thick of a phone it is. But in addition to its performance, I'm really interested to see what the quad camera system on the back of this phone can do with the three 64 megapixel sensors for the standard ultra wide and then that portrait camera, in addition to that 8 megapixel periscope camera with 5x zoom. So I'm gonna get this phone set up and then jump outside and start taking some pictures to show you guys what the cameras on this phone can do. Let's take a look. As I mentioned already, you do have three 64 megapixel sensors on the back of this device, but those are actually able to capture up to 8K video for the main sensor at 30 frames per second. And then the other two 64 megapixel sensors and the main one as well being able to capture 4K video at 60 FPS, while the 8 megapixel sensor with the periscope 5x zoom camera is only able to max out at 1080p video at 30 frames per second. A bit of a disappointment on that front, but definitely understandable since most 8 megapixel sensors max out at those frame rates. I'm also pretty impressed with the autofocus speed. As you can see, focused on the background here, but then throwing a leaf up right in front, as you can see, pulls in the focus really quickly and then back to the background again. Typically, you don't see autofocus speeds this quickly on a smartphone, and something you typically only get on a DSLR or mirrorless camera these days. And if you really do want to record video from the front-facing camera, you're going to be limited to 1080p video at 30 FPS. So I would recommend sticking to the rear cameras on the back of the phone if you want 4K video or even higher frame rates. This here's a look at video capture from the front-facing camera in low-light situations. In my office at night, there's not a whole lot of light. I do have a desk lamp here in the corner, so if you have light coming directly at your subject, it typically does pretty good. But if you're going to be in backlit situations like this, the lighting really isn't ideal for video capture in low-light situations like this. And that's going to do it for this quick unboxing and camera test with the ZTE Axon 30 Ultra. Let me know what you think of the results in the comments below, but also make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to see our upcoming review of this device and also a couple camera comparisons against some of the other flagship devices that are currently on the market. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.